Good, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:05. Why the roll, please?
Mr. Paloma.
Here.
Mrs. Lee. Here. Mrs. Beck.
Here. I didn't set that. Give it up to the right spot. We had, Brian had submitted to us the agenda. Were there any additions, Brian?
We had some changes today. I'm trying to think between what I sent you a couple days ago or yesterday and today. Just updates with graduates, cleaning up the policies, putting up all under one action item.
Okay.
We've under policies, we have an addition there for some professional development on June 17th and 18th, which is item H under Kelsey's section.
Actually, I think items G through I were additions under my report.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as submitted? So moved by Jackie. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, good job.
It's you and me, Jackie.
Yeah. I will have the roll, please.
Mrs. Lee. Here. Mr. Paloma.
Yes.
Mrs. Beck.
Yes. We'll move on now to the approval of the minutes for a regular board meeting on April 16th. That was also submitted to us previously. Is there a motion to?
Sorry, just one note. I noticed that on the minutes, Dora's name wasn't under the initial roll call. So it's not on yours because I'd already printed them all and I didn't want to waste paper. But
Okay.
it's corrected on mine, so that's just the only correction.
Okay, so corrected that Dora was listed on the poll. With that correction, is there an approval of the minutes as submitted? Moved by Israel. Second. All right, we'll take turns. Thank you. We'll have the roll, please.
Mr. Paloma.
Yes.
Mrs. Lee. Yes. Mrs. Lee.
Yes. And we move to public participation. So we have, Lori. Yeah, and very good, Lori. Thank you. Welcome to our meeting. Thanks for having me. Yeah, you're very welcome. And, I guess we let you do your thing.
I am here on behalf of State Auditor Keith Faber. Nice to see you again tonight.
Yes. See you again.
Yes. Last night I almost gave him like a sneak peek into what I said, no, I'll just.
I didn't want to steal their thunder.
We all have, I looked at you, I was like, I'm just gonna tell them, because they are the sponsors,
Yeah.
right? So I thought it's kind of cool that I was at Mark Rowe last night. She does a really good job with it. But anyway, I'm with the State Auditor's Office, and on behalf of Keith Faber, I am here to present Townsend Community School with the Auditor State Award, which I brought here. And we audit nearly 6,000 entities every year. They're not all schools, they're anybody who spends taxpayer money. You have to get an audit by law. So the county, city, village, library, you guys, anybody who spends money, they get an audit. So sure, yes, you get an audit from us, but only about 8% of everybody we audit is eligible for the Auditor State Award. And you get it for having what we call a clean audit in other terms. And a clean audit, some of my friends over here are putting meetings together too. They've already heard all those, but I never repeat it one more time. But to get it takes a lot of work. So you must file your financial reports within 50 days of the fiscal year end. And the clean audit has no findings for recovery, material citations, material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, single audit findings, or question costs. You also get a management letter with every audit, and you don't like anything in your management letter or no management letter. You can't do that. But in there, you can have no comments about ethics, referrals, question costs less than 10,000, a lack of just timely report submission. If you have any reconciliation problems that were in there, you can have those. If you fail to get your timely single audit at the right time, if you have a finding for recovery less than $100, you're not eligible. And also if you have any public meeting, public records interactions. So it's a lot to keep track of. So I love coming in person because I think it's important, especially at a school, you guys have a lot of employees versus maybe a smaller entity. So you have a lot more people doing things. And so I think every employee is telling them thank you tomorrow because they have to try every day for the whole accounting excellence. Even if they don't know that's what they're doing a good job, so there aren't any mistakes. And then I like to tell the board and the superintendent and just the people in charge at these meetings, that you're doing a good job accounting for every dollar that you're getting. And I of course like to thank the treasurers and their staff because they have to really spearhead it and be the ones to tell everybody to keep going. So I wanted to come tonight and tell your treasurer, Kelsey, just great job, and she has great fiscal integrity, and keep earning the award. And it is not your first one. I do not believe I didn't have. We only go back about 7 years, so let's say 2 in my time. I would say.
Yeah.
So anyway, congratulations.
Kelsey, come on up. Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Thank you very much for being here.
Certainly.
It's certainly important. Yeah, I appreciate that. That comment about Kelsey too. We know we're lucky to have her.
Yes, we are.
Very good. And well, you guys.
Hi, everybody. I am Jennifer Neeson, the treasury manager at Vista, and this is Tonda Zones, your local base here at Castelia.
Yes.
So any of our public entities or any large commercial customers, they'll have a treasury management officer. So I work with Kelsey on things like the ACH, online wires, the online activity, and then Tonda is there to help in the branch. So you have 2 people working for you. So we just wanted to come in and talk a little bit about the banking relationship. So good evening, Townsend board members. My name is Jennifer Neese. I'm from the downtown Water Street, Vista. First and foremost, we want to thank you for the opportunity to be your bank. We do realize there's not a lot of options in town, but we hope you don't feel like we're just the only one in town. We want to join you this evening to share a message about community banking. We work together day in and day out on cash management, but we don't often stop to discuss the importance of our partnership. Vista is truly focused on its customers and the communities it serves. We demonstrate our investment in ways that aren't always reflected by the highest rate or the lowest loan rate, but fair competitive rates coupled with additional financial and non-financial support to the communities we serve. Some community impact that we make includes maintaining a local branch facility, providing employment opportunities, donating to schools and civic organizations, encouraging employee volunteerism, and being an active part of our community. We also lend money back into the community through these same deposit funds, through vehicle loans, home improvement loans, small business loans, and mortgages. Over the past few years, with the significant growth and rising rates of the Ohio Treasurer's Star Ohio program, banks all over the state of Ohio are starting to feel the shift. While I fully understand and appreciate that it is your job to do the best you can with the money you're entrusted with, we want to make sure that you see the full value in having a community bank. Your funds in your local community bank are quite literally providing financial support to the people that live here. A quick review of the portfolio holdings shows that with Star Ohio, your funds are placed in places like the Bank of Nova Scotia, Sumitomo Bank in Japan, and just about every American large bank. We're not suggesting that you abandon Star Ohio. It is a great program with a great rate. But banks like Vista are never going to be able to compete with that rate. We can get very close to it. We were able to offer 5%, but they're a $23 billion organization. We're a $4 billion bank. Billions just seems out of this world to all of us, but we just want to keep in mind that those funds that you keep with us are truly being cycled back through the community where you live. I also want to have Tom to talk about her specific community involvement. She leads the team here in Castelia, and much like the report you guys just received, I think you'll enjoy the fact that of all 43 locations, the Castelia branch received Branch of the Year in 2023 for things like their audit, their customer service, their attention to detail. So we're really grateful to have Tonda on our team and here in Castelia. So I'm gonna let her talk to you about what her and her team do.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tawna Zelms, and I am the branch manager of the Branch of the Year team. So I wanted to take a few moments to highlight some of the ways that our branch has served the community of Castelia over the last 3 years that I've been here. We have volunteered at the local food pantry here in town. We have served dinner at the Grace Lutheran Community Meal Offering. We have washed windows for the elderly in the community through serving our seniors. We've done T-ball league sponsorships through the Castello Rec Department. We have donated blood at the local blood community drives. We participated in the Coal Creek Festival Parade, as well as donated our parking lot for the car show. And then a continual donation of gift baskets and prizes for various community events that we help throughout the year. But part of my role at Civista and Castello is to ensure that we're making a difference in those lives of the individuals that we serve beyond the side of a financial partnership. So as Jen mentioned, Civista is very strongly committed to supporting the communities and providing meaningful resources and benefits to help the Townsend community schools and your guys' employees to improve their financial health. And that is an important part of our commitment back to you guys. So what we would like to extend to you guys as a valued customer is our Civista at Work program. It's a financial wellness program, and it provides tailored no-cost solutions for financial benefits to your employees. So I'd be happy to coordinate a meeting with Rhonda Shealy. She leads out that program, and she'd be able to come in and give some additional information. And really, it's another way for us to be an additional resource, not just out in the community, but also with your employees, potentially getting into the classrooms and doing some financial literacy and kind of sharing what's going on and help answer any questions and be another resource for those. So thank you guys for choosing Civista. And if there's anything that I can do to help any of them, just let me know.
Are there any questions at this time? Well, we certainly thank you for being here this evening, and I know Tanya and I work together a lot on a lot of different projects, so she's a very familiar face in the community for sure. Thank you very, very much. Yes, thank you. Very good. Is there anyone else that has anything that they want to contribute in terms of public participation? Hearing none, we'll move on to the sponsors report. Do we have a report to?
Just, I guess, an update. The second site visit took place with Mr. Kirk, myself, and everything there is good. We're compliant with I think it's 50 items that were checked this time around. So that's being finalized and put into the epicenter, which leads the final task that we have in terms of their sponsorship and compliance for the year. Very good. 5-year forecast as well after tonight. That will be uploaded also. Okay, good.
All right, moving on to board member and liaison reports. I just wanted to report that I've had a couple of meetings with Ryan and Kelsey in preparation for the 5-year forecast. We've discussed some personnel matters, and I feel that all of those discussions will help me better understand where we're at financially over the next 5 years. In the legislative report, I don't have anything new to add. Are there any other liaison reports to give? Hearing none, we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
First item on the report is our annual credit card rewards report for fiscal year 2024. We still do not currently receive any credit card rewards through our Civista Bank credit card. Next, I'm gonna hand it over to Ashley here in a second. So we had an on-site grant audit this year with the Department of Education and Workforce, and it went really well overall. The one issue that was brought up was just being able to spend all the funds. So we have a couple of grants that we had to come up with some plans on how to spend them down toward the end of this year. So one of those is the expanding opportunities for each child grant. Ashley has helped out a lot with some inspiration for what we'd like to do with those funds and the direction we'd like to go with them. So I'm going to hand it over to her so she can talk about that.
Thanks. Karen Berg also helped with this because she would kind of spearhead it. We've done, with our transition aspect, we've done a lot of visits to different schools, facilities, just how to like get our kids involved, learning like entrepreneurship, soft skills, money management, time management, how to work with, other people. So label is in North Ridgeville. There's a short little video that kind of explains something that we would like to do here. Like you kind of go through the work floor, there's a flow, everybody has job titles. You have reward incentives, you have meetings in the morning, it just operates completely like a job. It was really cute, and it was nice because the kids really bought into it. They felt empowered, they felt like they were doing something, but it really took off. So I'm gonna show you the short little video. And we're gonna cut it off because at one point, because they're starting to expand into a cooking part, and we're not gonna get to that. Baby steps, Rome wasn't built in a day. But yeah, Dave, if you put that'd be awesome.
This is Able Not Labeled, a student-operated business that is run within North Ridgeville High School.
The whole focus of Able Not Label is for our students to run a retail business where we make shirts, mugs, tote bags, really all sorts of things. And they are learning how to do money management, customer service, working on their social skills, and then there's a lot of daily living skills that they're practicing.
Under the direction of Mrs. Carlo and the rest of the staff that teach and guide these talented students, they have created a business that is building popularity within the school district and community.
So all of our students currently have a role, like an area of expertise. So we have like a heat press operator, we have, some students that like focus on deliveries.
With this growing business comes more opportunity for collaboration and student involvement within the general population.
We, every semester so far since we really took off with Able, we've been collaborating with the entrepreneurship class, which is really fun. It's nice because our students will go to, his class, Wax class, and, they'll talk about, plans and what they want to do. And we have been kind of like their vendor. So entrepreneurs, making up the design and the idea, and then we are making those materials, and then entrepreneur takes it over and, markets it.
So this actually kind of goes into our Rise Up program that we're really big into for the retail industry and credentialing, and the skills we want to teach our students. So we just thought, like, with what we're doing, we can build it up more. We have the money, and then it can be self-running eventually. But we could also produce stuff in-house instead of buying our stuff. So we could take ownership, the kids could take ownership in that, so our PDIS store that the kids buy into, they could produce their own, create their own stuff. The Sunshine Fun shirts that we buy into to give back, we could create those, the Scott Kindness shirts, and other local custom orders, like, we could get to that point. I think it would just be a great avenue for them to go. Thanks for your time.
What about cost?
Cost, like startup costs? So Karen and I have been going through, we got a spreadsheet going because we want to share that with Kelsey. With the grant, we're under the grant so far, but we would be able to buy some, I would say, like initial items to start with, and then that'll start paying for itself. And then we do, Kelsey, we do get grant money for the year.
Yeah, well, I'm not positive that this one repeats, but if this specific grant didn't repeat, I think we can tap into our free fund.
But even like it has, like in the other schools that we've gone to, it has shown that it becomes self-sufficient and it just runs itself. And like if we do the PBIS shirts and things like that, all that'll be able to be self-sufficient.
So you're thinking like the screen printing
Mhm.
and that?
But actually the heat press too,
Yeah.
so it's nicer and not as thick,
Right.
and then like the mugs or.
Yeah.
It just comes with a lot, we've done some meetings with people and things today, Karen and I did, just to dive into a little bit more to make sure we're not on the wrong route.
Right, and space.
We thought we would try to utilize the math lab. Since it's not quite being utilized, and we could utilize it to something that could be fully functional.
Mhm.
There's the airflow control in there, the humidity controls already in there. Get control space for something like that.
So this is done during the school day?
Yeah. That is completely done during the school day, the kids have jobs and tasks.
So how would you schedule that, right? You know what I mean? Like, they have their day in here, how would that fit into?
So what we've come to figure out when we're working with our students, the students that are here all day long. They run out of things to do. They do a lot of their work at home, this becomes their social interaction time. So instead of having behaviors or having downtime, we're gonna give them tasks, soft skills, employability skills. And figure the hands-on things will give them more want to be here actually. And
Would this be something that like anybody can do, or do you have to, I wanna say earn it, but like, is there a requirement to be able to take part in, like,
I would say anybody can do it until they lose it. Lose the privilege of, because there is a heat press in there, there are, there is gonna be a final cut or a cricket, there's dangerous items in there, so safety first. So if you be proved to be not following rules, then I guess.
I'm thinking more along the lines of like schoolwork first,
Right.
right?
Oh.
Like.
Yeah, if you're credit deficient in that, yeah.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm getting at, you know what I mean, like
No, for sure, like, I guess that could be an incentive that we could build into.
incentive, yeah, I guess, yeah, that's
A
probably.
lot of our students are going with our retail fundamentals and customer service, like we're going really hard with that Rise Up program. But right now it's just this is plan B, like graduation didn't work with the testing. And we're just gonna give you this because this is plan B. Now it has some substance to why we're doing this, like you're actually learning those retail skills that go along with that industry. We're getting the students of the soft skills and all of that.
We can, with Karen's degree, she also has a business degree, we can do the work-based learning without the paycheck. So we can get around that on the Americans jobs, so that would also align with the Rise Up program too. So they would fit into the curriculum with it, like as we build it instead of, here's a test, take a test. Let's understand why you're taking that test.
It also kind of ties into some of those CBI related core skills that we're trying to teach as well, teach our students. But getting back to what she said about the industry recognized credentials. So students who are not competent in the Algebra 1 or the 10th grade English and the quarters exam, and by competent, that means a score of 684. They have to go this route of doing the retail program, which Ashley has spearheaded. And I would say probably about 75% of our kids close to it have to go that route because they're not competent in algebra and English. I don't have the exact percent right now, but it's a majority of our kids.
That's something.
Yeah, so the EOEC grant, the focus is, one of the biggest uses that is emphasized is personalized learning. So I think with our kids that want the work-based experience, that want the work-based type learning, this really plays into that personalized learning experience, and it builds community within the school.
Yeah.
So for ours, it would have to be available, I mean, understandably, it would be available to all students, but I think the EOEC grant really ties into the Title I grant, in that you want to identify the kids that need some kind of intervention. So that's how I think it also ties to the Rise Up. We're identifying those kids that need that intervention, they need a different pathway.
So we've had 75 graduates so far this year, 20 of them have gone through that Rise Up route.
So
So
that's
that's
right, percentage a little off. But quite a few kids.
But quite a few kids.
Yeah, so.
Well, and it ties right in with what you were talking about in terms of the partnership with Savista and understanding. Sounds fun. Yeah.
Sounds like you guys are excited and
like.
you got me a little excited
It's
too.
money that has to be spent also, so we were really excited that it's not only an action plan, but it's one that we're really excited about.
Yeah.
It falls into that CTE route that we really want to go into. Because the schools are getting money for the CTE funding. We don't have many options for our kids. But this would be an option,
Trying to expand those courses.
trying to.
Yeah.
It's us to run an SDNA program or.
Right.
We could, focus on some soft retail skills, customer service skills. Not only will that help them with, future jobs, but it also helps them become a better person.
Yeah.
Along with other people.
So how soon would you guys, ideally?
I think we're hoping to get,
We could have it up and running next school year.
yeah, I think we're hoping to get pieces of it together now as we spend the funds and try and start like test driving it a little bit, maybe with small groups type of thing, and then full go by the start of the school year.
Cool.
And we have a number of community resources that can help feed into that. I'm sure John Cullen would be somebody that would be a great resource.
Right.
For that, and Citizens Bank, yeah, so that sounds wonderful. Thank you very much, it's very exciting. All right, Kelsey, well. Was there anything else that you had under your report?
No, well, no, not for information, so we can go back to our financial reports. So we can go ahead and skip past the minutes. So we first have our cash reconciliation for April. You can see we ended the month with $9,658,647.54. Sorry, I'm putting our.
Got it. I'm there.
Next, we have our disbursement summary. I just have a couple that I want to clarify. First, if you just go down a few, you'll see that our Margaretta payment was a little bit higher this month than typical, so I thought that might stand out. We had to pay for our emergency management platform for our part of that. And then also we had to pay for the band certification process for the employees that we had go through that to get band certified, so we had to pay for those fees as well. Next, if you go down a few more, you'll see avoided payment to the school employees retirement. So our SCRS and STRS, the employer payments come directly out of our foundation payment every month. But the way that I post it to the system to reconcile every month, it comes from the payroll system over to my financial reporting system, and that way it pulls data directly from the payroll for how much it pulls from each account, if that makes sense. So the total amount is always the same as the foundation payment, but it pulls based on our payroll plan. And for April, it pulled, but one of Betty's payrolls hadn't been reconciled, and so it pulled a little different. It pulled mostly from the general fund. It didn't distribute the way that it normally did. It looked very different from our normal retirements. So you'll see that skewed in our board spreadsheet for the month, that our retirement was, or our benefits, I should say, were very high for the month. So in May, we voided that payment and then just reposted it for April so that it would pull from both payrolls correctly and the accounts would be distributed correctly. So we should see that correct itself on our May spreadsheet, but you'll notice it's high on our April spreadsheet. On the next page, I didn't have anything to note. Does anyone have any questions over the second page of the spreadsheet summary? On the third page, there's one payment about 4 up from the bottom to Amy DeSotos. This was the parent of a student. They had turned in a damaged Chromebook. It was damaged in a house flood, and they thought it wasn't working at all. So they paid the Chromebook fee. They got a new Chromebook. But then Dave was able to actually recover it. It worked fine. We tested it multiple times. So we refunded that Chromebook payment. So I just thought that one might stand out, that's a different vendor, so.
Good job, Dave.
Your electronics get wet, don't plug them in. Let them really up for about 3 weeks, and they'll probably will fine. That's what happened.
Next, we have our outstanding disbursement summary. There are no questions on that, we can go ahead and move on to our monthly spreadsheet. So in our bottom right section, you can see benefits were up at 125%. So that's that skewing that I just talked about. It was higher than normal. We did also have some staff that we moved from the 467 funds, the old student wellness funds. Those have finally all been expended. So they are now moved to the general fund. So we will see a slight increase there now that those funds are all the way expended. But this was inflated. We also see that our purchase services are slightly inflated, but we talked about how the resource officer got moved into the general fund. We added the career coach in the year, which was not an initially planned expense, so we had anticipated purchase services being a little bit high. And then finally, you'll see that other objects was also high. We're getting our audit fees this time of year, so again, high this time of year, but if you look to the left, the 800s are low overall in the year. We're slightly high on our expenses. Again, I think that's gonna balance out a little bit with the benefits. If we come in slightly over what we anticipated, we're also coming in much higher on the revenue. So overall for the year, we're still sitting well. But our expenses might be slightly high just based on, we had to do some planning that wasn't initially. Are there any questions over the spreadsheet? Next, we have our monthly foundation payment. Prior to retirements in May, we received $453,880.11. Your next two payments show you the summary payment for May compared to the summary payment for April. You can see the May payment overall for the year is up a little bit. We're at $6,089,000 versus April was at $6,080,000. No questions on our foundation payments, we can go ahead and move on to our 5-year forecast. So I actually want to start on the second page of the forecast. I want to start by highlighting some of the assumptions that are made before we dive into the numbers. So one of the first assumptions that is very important to talk about is that the revenue amounts are under the assumption that the new funding formula is going to continue, including the equity supplement that's currently being offered to community schools. And speaking with Amy, our attorney, about this, she does feel that the current political climate in Ohio is very school friendly, it's positive. But the current biannual budget is approved through June of 2025. So this is not guaranteed, but the funding formula could be subject to change. This 5-year forecast is under the assumption that it's going to continue similarly. Next, we are also making the assumption that for our grant reimbursements, we are going to continue to get similar allocations as what we've seen in years past. Our Title I is going to be a similar amount. We'll be able to have salaries and benefits in those grants. So when we look at what we get reimbursed for the federal grants, we're operating under the assumption that we will continue to get similar allocations. Other assumptions under salaries and wages. So we applied steps and a 1% raise to the base in fiscal year 25, which that has actually happened. But I also assumed in fiscal years 26 and 7 that steps would be applied. Fiscal year 28 steps and a potential 1% raise to the base were applied. I also attempted to predict hiring. So you'll see an increase in employees for next year. I included 3. So far we've hired 2. But there had been talk about if Lorraine were to expand our enrollment, we might potentially need an enrollment person or some position of that nature. But it wouldn't be for the full year. So I applied that at an 80%, thinking that at some point in the year that might potentially be added. I also, when I go through and look at salaries and benefits, I have my spreadsheets of total employee costs and I lay out every single person. So I look at all of our costs, and when I add an employee, I actually go ahead and add someone in. I don't just apply like a percentage. I don't say, oh, our salaries will probably go up this percent. I actually look at what our steps are, what our salaries are, who I think we're going to be adding. I try to look at who I know is in current courses and might get a horizontal jump on the teaching scale. I try and take all things into consideration. So there are assumptions for potential hirings, and things of that nature. I also make the assumption of a 15% increase to the health insurance premiums, besides the fiscal year 25, where we have our rates approved and we know we got a 5% reduction, which was great. This could potentially be high, but again, I would rather be conservative and plan for an increase. We've seen increases higher than that. We've seen increases lower than that. I'd like to plan for that, and know that we can, pay it and expect it versus budgeting for lower and then being disappointed. I'd rather be excited like I was this year. We've also included a $125,000 allotment for Chromebooks in our supplies budget. Over the past few years, we've utilized some ESSER funds for Chromebooks. These are going to have to, as we run a one-to-one Chromebook program, and we have a curriculum that's entirely online, we're going to have to pay for this out of the general fund. We've talked about ways to make it work, and we do feel we're going to be able to continue to operate the one-to-one program. It's been budgeted in the supplies. Also, we have our 8% payback to the Department of Education and Workforce. And we know that it can stay at 8% unless something were to happen in the FTE review or they ask for more, they can go up to 12% based on our agreement. So just to be cautious, I have 10%, 11%, 12%, and 12% in the subsequent years for fiscal year 24. So we budget for a little bit higher of a payback. And then if we stay at 8, we're pleased, we're happy, but we're ready if we would need to pay more. Now we can flip back to our chart and take a look at some of the specifics. So under fiscal year 24, you'll see the revenue amount is $6,088,000. That's very similar to what we just saw on our state foundation payment that we were projected for the year. As we're in May, we should be pretty close to spot on that, so that is what's projected. You'll see that our expenses are slightly over our revenue for the year prior to the grant reimbursements. So what we're expending total for the year out of grants, general fund, out of everything is higher than our revenue. But once the grants get reimbursed, then we are not, then we are okay for the year, very well for the year. We had very high capital outlay expenses with our renovation this summer, so that's not a typical expense. That's not something we're gonna see continue year to year. You'll notice in fiscal years 25, 26, 27, and 28, I do have a contingency budgeted into capital outlay. It increases as the years go on a little bit. This is for anything that might go wrong. I'm having Bob and Rick over the summer really take a hard look at our bigger objects, our fixed assets. We're going to take a look at when we think these items might go, when we should be budgeting for these things. But I like to have money in place regardless. We're going to try and have something a little more specific for you, more of a capital asset 5-year plan type of thing. But for now, we do have it budgeted in case something were to go wrong.
So do we have to calculate depreciation? I mean, is that something we?
Yes, that gets calculated on our capital assets. Yes, that's part of our gap.
Okay.
You'll see that underneath of the first section for the enrollment, I was very cautious with any increases. I know we're hoping that Lorraine will increase our enrollment a little bit, but as of right now, we haven't started enrolling. We don't know where that's going to go, so I did not want to plan for that. I was very cautious in that regard. Our enrollment slightly increases, very small, but nothing crazy until we see otherwise. And then one other thing to note is you'll notice under our interest income, so we do have some high numbers there, which we're not used to seeing. Right now with Savista, with the rate that we are getting, our interest for April, for example, for our MMA investment account, it was $29,735. So $30,000 per month. If that were to continue, it's a promotional rate, but Jen is kind enough to reapply it every 3 months. And that's worked out really well so far. So if we were to get a similar amount at about $30,000 for 12 months, it'd be about $360,000 for the year. Now I budgeted under that. Again, I just like to be cautious. I don't like to assume you don't know. We also have discussed the possibility of investing with Star Ohio. market can fluctuate, it's not guaranteed, their rate is currently 5.51, so, again. We're budgeting slightly under that in case, to be cautious, but that interest revenue does significantly help our budget, and that has been new to us this year. Jen so graciously provided the promotional rate, and that has been a huge help, so. Are there any questions so far over the 5-year forecast?
Lot to digest.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to you before the weekend, so you've got some time with it.
Yeah,
Look it over.
yeah.
I did also prepare a couple of different versions. This is the one we are approving. This is our finalized version of what we are anticipating. But I wanted to just show you what it would look like if we paid off our debt in full, that kind of thing. I gave you just, and I didn't do the full thing with all the assumptions for these. I just did the quick financial picture. The top one, right now we are getting a lot of career tech funds. So this example is if in the future, Ohio was giving less money for CTE. If the funding formula changed and we suddenly weren't getting quite as much, we saw a reduction there. It's also, you'll note on the right-hand side, you'll see the 8%. So I did not budget for the 10, 11, 12% paybacks. I just did the 8% here. But you'll see that we do come into a negative amount for expenses over revenue a little bit quicker. You see it in fiscal year 26 versus fiscal year 28. So just something to know, something we are going to keep an eye on legislatively, politically. We're going to watch the formula. We're going to watch those kinds of things so that we're prepared. The next sheet is the same revenue that we're seeing on this 5-year, on a regular 5-year, but with the payback in full. So under fiscal year 25, you'll see the $2,631,111 payback. And it does put us at a negative for fiscal year 25, but then we are not negative for 26, 27, and 28. It takes some of that financial burden off. However, fiscally, with the investment options that we're exploring and the potential interest income, I don't feel that this is in our best interest. Our paybacks to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce are at no interest to us. So I don't think it makes sense to pay it all back rather than letting that money earn us interest and funding another position, things of that nature. If you look at like the totals at the end of fiscal year 28, you'll see our total is better off if we do not make the full payback. And then the final example is if we did the payback in full and we saw the career tech reduction. So this is the lowest amount total. And they're just things that the payback is something we've considered, something that we've discussed. So I wanted to show you kind of what it would look like. And then the career tech funds are just something that we currently have a lot of. So I just wanted to note if, hey, if this didn't continue in the future, what would our forecast look like?
And it's likely that they would continue, just not at the rate. I mean,
As of
they
right
would
now, there's
move them.
no suggestion that there's gonna be a reduction. It's just something that we've discussed, like
Right.
we're currently getting a lot of them. So I just wanted to make a note of if we weren't quite getting as much, but as of right now, there's nothing being discussed. I haven't heard anything legislatively that part of the formula is gonna change at all.
Does anyone have any questions for Kelsey about this?
No, but I like the way she thinks.
Yeah. She's on it. Caution, caution, caution.
Yes, the anxiety.
Very good.
Okay, so that was for item D, resolve that the board of directors approves the 5-year forecast as presented. Next, we have item E, resolve that the board of directors approves the addendum compliance agreement with Strategic Management Solutions as presented. These are our E-rate consultant services. Last month or March, I can't remember which one, but we approved it for category 1 services. These are our consulting fees for the category 2 services. Something we approve every year. But I know it can seem repetitive because we just did category 1 recently. Next, we have resolved that the board of directors ratifies the agreement with Santana Energy Services to supply natural gas for the school at an average rate of .1583 per CCF for an 18-month period beginning July 1st, 2024. So this is the same as with our electric. The rates are locked in till 4 p.m. and I can either approve them or I get new rates the next day. They don't hold. So I have to lock into them if we want them, and then we ratify the agreement rather than approving the contract ahead of time. It's just the nature of how these rates go. With the natural gas, it's a little bit different than the electric in terms of the adder. So I don't know, the last time we spoke about it, it might have been all the way last year. But the adder is essentially, there's a set rate for the natural gas, and then Columbia Gas has their adder. And we try to find one that's slightly lower, and then we lock into it. Columbia's is locked into 0.166, and we are locked into 0.1583. So we can still fluctuate with the market price of gas, but Columbia is always going to be adding, and our adder is lower. So we're locked into at least a better rate than what we had gotten had we stayed with Columbia. I believe in December we reviewed our savings for all of last year, and it was good. It was a good amount. So far we're pleased with the way that that's been going. Item G, resolve that the Board of Directors approves an expenditure not to exceed $27,055.05. That is the total that's left for our EOEC grant that we need to get spent, that we had to create the action plan for. So we're hoping to spend all of it for the creation of an in-house print press shop, utilizing expanding opportunities for each child, non-competitive federal grant funds. Item H, we have resolved that the Board of Directors approves an expenditure not to exceed $10,000 for staff to attend professional development at the Never Boring Conference on June 17th and 18th, with said expenditure to include the cost of travel reimbursement to staff upon submission of required documents and superintendent approval, utilizing Title I-A federal grant funds. So Title I-A was the other grant. We had two that we had to write action plans. Title I-A was the other one that we were looking at. What kind of things can we do? How can we spend money? What would be most beneficial to our staff and students? And Shannon, when she went down to the federal programs conference, this was one of the PDs that she came across, and it looked to her to be very good for rejuvenating, to be a little bit reinvigorating at the end of the year. You see the title, Never Boring Conference. We're hoping it's going to be a very positive experience. I don't believe that we'll spend $10,000 on it, but after hotel rooms and mileage and things like that, I thought it might exceed $5,000. So I just wanted to make sure we had that approved ahead of time rather than having to come back in June and I'm waiting to reimburse people, or I'm waiting to pay because it's a little bit higher.
And where is that?
It's just in Toledo.
Okay, Toledo. And would it allow all staff to attend?
We focused it on more instructional staff. I think there might have been a couple, it wasn't necessarily all teachers, but I think the focus was instruction, because with Title I funds, you have to make sure it's serving the Title I purpose.
Right.
So it was focused on instructional staff. We do have some administrative staff that oversee instructional staff going, things of that nature, but it wasn't open to all staff for that reason, because we're paying for it out of state. And then finally, item I, resolve that the Board of Directors approves an expenditure not to exceed $6,000 of ARP homeless targeted support federal grant funds for supplies to continue with the design of the school's ready room. So we created the shower with the ARP homeless funds and then the ARP homeless targeted funds. They both supported the creation of the shower. We have about 7,500 left. We are potentially going to look at some PD for Carrie, our homeless liaison, potentially Karin as well. I don't know if you've had a chance to review it. But minus that PD expense, if that were to get approved, we have about 6,000 remaining that needs spent. So again, we're just looking to try and make the most of these grant funds. We have to be careful with buying supplies. We did buy some clothing, but we have to be sure that we can hand it out by January 2025. So we couldn't go crazy with stocking it with clothes, but we're looking at kind of restructuring the room with some shelving, making it more appealing to students. The whole thing with having a ready room is you don't want there to be any stigma. You want the kids to walk in and have it be a good, we want it to be a positive experience as much as it can be. So we're trying to create that kind of atmosphere. That's what we're looking to do with these further funds. I think that's it.
That's a lot. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve items A through I of the treasurer's report?
I'll move.
Moved by Israel, seconded by Dora. Again, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll have the roll, please.
Mr. Paloma?
Yes.
Mrs. Grant?
Yes.
Mrs. Salee?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes. And before we move to the superintendent's report, I did want you to feel that you needed to stay to the duration. So you're, yes, I will, you.
Last night to hear that though. I
Yeah.
feel like that was Kelsey's,
Well, that's what I
part
heard.
there.
That's what I kind of thought you might
We
like
got
to
to
be
be
here.
sure.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, to begin with, we'll take a look at our enrollment breakdown. Currently, as of today, we have an enrollment of 477 students. We also are up to 75 graduates. Actually, just before 3 o'clock today, however, after I printed these items off, we had number 76 come through for approval. So we have 76 graduates, which is exciting. That number's grown very rapidly here over the last month. I think last month we were at about 48 graduates. So that number's increasing quickly. Plus, we got the end course results back recently. English just came back, I believe, yesterday, so that helped us to get a few more kids across the finish line as they met that requirement. So looking at the breakdown here, in the lead here now, for the first time I think ever, is Norwalk with 73 students. We have 70 in Fremont, and we have 45 in Sandusky. And Bellevue coming in fourth with 39 students.
I did ask Ryan in the future to make some multiple columns for us under the number of students with maybe months, so that we can make some comparisons. We can really see what's happening within the school districts. So that's something we'll modify that report.
If you flip your paper over, it's got a monthly breakdown.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know if this is exactly how you intended, but there's a breakdown from September through May here. Of the
Actually,
enrollment
what I intended was this sheet,
Uh-huh.
only with the previous month.
Okay,
So,
just multiple columns.
yeah, because what's important to me is not so much the reduction as well, but we also need to look at the school districts that we're getting things.
See the trend.
Yeah,
Right.
right, exactly.
So I guess if we look at trends on a whole, not necessarily by school district, on the back side here, you can see the enrollment in the first column. In September, we were at 519. That was our highest enrollment number. Currently, we're at 477. But I think it's important that we look not just at that number, but we factor in the kids that we've helped reach the finish line. Because we've had success with a lot of kids graduating. In September, we were at 5 graduates, and now in May, we're at 75. So if we factor in the kids enrolled, plus the kids that we've helped reach the finish line, looking at that month by month, we started in September with that total being 524. And as it progressed, the number dropped a little bit, but we've grown since then. And in recent months, now in May, if you take our student enrollment plus our graduates, that number's 552, which is the highest it's actually been all of school year.
Yeah,
So I guess when you look at things from a different angle, you factor in the graduates and the current enrollment, our number is solid, and it's good that we're having that success. And there's 75 students that are not in the current enrollment count.
yeah, absolutely. Well, and we're to the plus, when you look at the 524 to the
Yeah, if you look at
5.2, we're to the
Growth,
plus. Yeah. So, very good. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah. And just a reminder to all board members as well as administrators, I sent out an email reminder late this afternoon. There's a couple of different options, but we do need to complete our sunshine laws training here in the next few weeks. There's one option through the Ohio Attorney General's website and one through the auditor's website. So, and one of those is accessible at any time online. You don't have to go during a scheduled date and time. You can do it on your schedule. So if you could look at that, everyone, and try to fit that in here over the next few weeks. And then depending on which one you take, you'll either get a certificate, or if it's through the Attorney General's office, you'll be on a list. They put the list of who has completed the course by dates, and you can just send me a copy of that list. Because when we get our audit for next year, one of the things they're likely to ask for is proof that everybody's gone through the sunshine law training in that certificate or that list with your name on it.
If you
So
do,
that's the-
if you do the auditor's training, it's broken down into 3 sections and it's on demand, you can do it. That's what I did. So it's not quite as overwhelming, it's sitting there for,
With the auditor.
yeah.
Yeah, I do the auditors day, but I do the live version, and they ask me questions throughout it.
Yeah, I did
It's
the,
their warning.
I did the, not that one, and they don't ask me. It's about-
I feel like it's good for me to do that one.
What was the one we did, but didn't we do one before online?
Yeah.
And it was the. On demand.
I think it was the auditors.
Yeah, I just pulled it up, it's,
Hardest part,
it's in front of
figuring
me.
out what your password is, probably to log in. If you can't, there's probably a forget
I'm
password.
sure there is.
Passwords are a dirty word to me.
I sent you an email, there's 2 different links in there. You can choose which links you want to use, which website.
You said you did send that to us.
Ladies.
Yeah,
Oh.
I just pulled it up, yeah.
And if you need help, please contact me, let me know, I'll try to walk you through. Even if you need to meet in person, we can do that. Any questions on sunshine laws training? Okay, move on there to new business, section A, or item A, I should say. It's a resolution to approve the awarding of high school diplomas to the following students on successful completion of the graduation requirements and set forth by the state of Ohio. You can see a large list there this month of graduates, which is exciting. Been having quite a few graduation ceremonies, kids coming in with family and friends. There's some that are pretty emotional. You know, it means a lot to them and their families.
Has there been any rethinking on your part as far as how we're doing those graduations and things?
I personally think they're well received. But I personally don't think that there's a need right now to go back to a large graduation ceremony like we used to have.
It seems so much more personal.
They're personal, they don't have to sit there and watch everybody else walk through, the focus is solely on them. It's efficient with their time, they walk out of here happy and excited. I see it as a positive right now.
Wait, had any issues at all with like the other location? I mean, it's close enough that it wouldn't be a problem. 3 months not too far. Are they coming in here now for the graduation?
Most of them come in, I think we've got maybe 1 or 2 free months, they've requested to have them over.
Yeah, there's been a couple that just requested it there, they didn't have the transportation or desire, I'm not sure what it was, they come here.
Mhm.
So they kind of took stuff there and, made it.
And it went okay.
Okay, so that is action item A. Action item B is a resolution to approve the following policies as presented. Policy 123 is the investment policy. This is a new policy. This gives the treasurer authority to shift funds for investment purposes as seen fit for the best interest of the school. Kelsey, is there anything else you'd like to point out for that?
Amy had thought that kind of initially our policies already covered this, but Brian and I had met with Amy and asked some questions about, there's some kind of like, I guess, chatter going on from OSBA about managing cash balances and not having them get too high. Amy didn't seem concerned with it. She had thought it was okay as long as you're, investing the funds wisely. And there had been a recommendation about drafting a policy for cash balances, and from that conversation, this is what she created.
Then policy 301 is just an update to the wellness policy. And then policy 425.
I'm sorry, Brian, is the wellness policy for the students or for?
This is for the students, it includes like the National School Lunch Program.
Okay,
information in there.
okay.
And then, policy 425 is for the new science of reading training. Let's read the whole thing here. Policy 425, science of reading training as presented, and further resolved that the board approves the stipends for employees as presented, pending completion of state required training, and authorizes the superintendent and treasurer to determine additional employee eligibility for training stipends in accordance with state law and science reading training policy. So this policy spells out who is required to go through the training, the different types of training, the different stipends. So there's certain versions of the course that are that come along with a $1,200 stipend. And there's certain versions, of course, that come along with a $400 stipend. And administrators are not allowed to receive a stipend. These stipends, in relation to the science and reading, that our teaching staff and administrators are gonna have to go through, it's a requirement by state law that just came out. They're gonna take these and then we will pay them, however, we will be reimbursed from the state. So the stipends that state law is requiring us to pay, state will reimburse us for them. So it's not just gonna come out of our general fund budget. Any questions on science and reading training? So this is part of the big initiative with literacy right now at the state level. And in the next couple of years, math is on deck, it's their next initiative. Okay, item C then is a recommendation to approve the following certified staff or contracts for the 24-25 school year, including non-administrative staff exhibit B. And these two staff members, we have hired with the intention of them working at the Lorraine site that we're going to have here in the fall. The first person is Kristen Keller. She's an English teacher at Masters Plus 12, Step 9. And she is coming from Vermillion. She is currently helping run their alternative program there. And we think she's going to be a fabulous fit for our school as well as our kids there in Lorraine County. Brings some good experience with her. And then Sheridan Knott as intervention specialist, bachelor step 0. Now, even though she's at step 0, she has been working at Norwalk High Schools for several years. She was a substitute, a permanent substitute, long-term substitute for a while. And then the last 3 years, she's been there to help with learning loss. So she's been in a position that they've used ESSER funds to pay for that position, but to help getting kids who are behind caught up academically, and working with the at-risk population there in Norwalk. So she during this time, she has been progressing towards getting her intervention specialist license through an alternate pathway. And their principal, Patrick Kane, reached out to me and said that he wishes he had a job to give her right now, but he gave her a high recommendation for hire. And she did a nice job in the interview as well. Any question on either of those two hires there? Okay. All right, item D is a resolution to change Shannon Wilson's title from Dean of Students to School Climate Coordinator for the 2024-25 school year. The reason for this is because we have these Title I funds that have to be used, and Shannon was previously paid through ESSER, correct?
Yes.
And we have to shift that away from ESSER because ESSER money is running out here in September. So we want to utilize her position with Title I funds to pay for that position. The title of Dean of Students is not completely acceptable in terms of like an audit of the Title I funds.
So essentially, what her position does is, her position supports the initiative of Title I. Dean of Students, for whatever reason, they kept feeling like it triggered the thought of she's admin. And we explained she's not an administrator. She doesn't oversee any other staff. She doesn't evaluate any staff. And they actually came to us and just recommended, if you want to shift her to Title I would just recommend changing her title. That's the recommendation that they gave us. They actually came out and recommended School Climate Coordinator. They felt it supported the initiative of Title I, it fit in well. So we're just looking, we feel like her job already aligns with it. We're just looking to align with it.
Yeah, she spearheads our PBIS initiative, which all ties to school climate, school culture, disciplines just happens to be a piece of that, which, we try to prevent, we do everything we can to prevent that happening. That's the last step, is the discipline. But really her position is about helping to maintain that positive school climate culture. So it goes along with what we're trying to do here, which also is going to allow us to pay for that position with Title I funds.
We're focusing on who we can shift out of ESSER, but into other grants, trying not to let our general fund take as little of a hit as possible. So.
Yeah, because that was where her pay was going to expand from general funds if it weren't for utilizing this Title I funds. Item E then is a resolution to approve a lease with Lorraine County Community College for Townsend to have an alternative learning center at their location for the 2024-25 school year as presented. And the lease amount is $550, which is the same as what our rate is at Fremont this upcoming year. Which I think is very fair enough. So I'm
Yay.
excited.
Yay.
It's taken a lot of back and forth communication. They've been great to work with though, and I'm excited. I think they're excited to have us there. They see this as a win-win for students as well as both Townsend and Lorraine Community College.
So when do we start to have a footprint there?
Actually be there,
Yeah,
not until August.
okay,
So the next 2 months here, I'm gonna be busy doing all the opening assurances. Probably next month, I'll come back to you with an amendment to our agreement with Margaretta to include that as one of our sites. We did the same thing with Fremont Stussy, had to amend the contract. So we'll do that. I'll go through all the opening assurances, which I've done with the other 2 locations, and we should be done and running almost then.
I think in the meantime, we should really hit marketing on it hard, like do the advertisement in that area. Get a newspaper article, maybe get LCCC to a quote and, you know.
I already asked Karen to start working on a flyer advertisement, so she's brainstorming some ideas there. But, yeah, I'll be contacting, probably in a month or so, I'll reach out to superintendents. Let them know what's happening, just to let them know we're gonna be there, try to build those relationships, open the door, to them referring students to us. Okay, item F is a recommendation to purchase 81 Chromebooks from Ford Edge for $24,993.33 as presented. And since we do have some ESSER funds remaining, we are going to utilize the ESSER funds. However, in future years, we're going to utilize some of our CTE funds because it ties to the instruction with CBI. So each year we need to continuously replenish Chromebooks because unfortunately, we don't get them all back.
We are working on that.
We're-
We have discussed some solution methods to try and get more back, but.
They reach end of life too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they have a very short lifespan regardless as is.
So once we do get that, come back and surprisingly. But. I'll be coming back to you this summer for more, because 81's not gonna.
how many do you anticipate that we need?
We distribute about 350. That includes. Ones that come back and new ones, but.
We're gonna need a cart.
In my mind, I think about it like a textbook, you know. I'm sure I'm at age, but 15 years ago, the board would be approving the same amount of money for a
Yeah.
textbook.
Yeah.
And those get beat up too and not returned. Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just think about it as a
cost of doing business.
think about it as a textbook.
And we have an all online curriculum, so.
Right.
Yeah.
That's their textbook.
Item G then is a recommendation to enter an agreement with Northern Buckeye Education Council to renew a license for the Verkada security camera and door access system for 5 years through 2028-29 school year at a cost of $25,290.81 as presented. And that's a one-time expense for the 5 years. It's not an annual amount, just like that. So last year was year 1, we used, I believe, E-rate, right? Security grant. Safety grant, that's right, to get the new Verkada camera system and door system. Not only the equipment, but also year 1 of the license. Now we have to pay for the additional years of license. That's where this action item comes from.
The grant had a restriction on it, could only pay for 1 year.
Yeah,
That's right.
I reached out and checked on it and they don't want me to extend licensing past the life of the grant.
And our final action item on the back side there is item H is a resolution to approve and adopt the addendum to appendix B of the employment agreement for all applicable employees. And there's a copy of this. There's 2 sides, 2 different versions in your folder. Which probably will be your last document. So what this is here, we had a employee come with recently asking a question about severance. And it just so happens that the employee that asked about it, severance does not apply to that employee based upon our previous severance policy, which was, however, through the policies of Dickinson Wright. We implemented our new policies this past year with Amy Goodson's office, and the severance policy was not transferred over. And in talking with Becky Enns from Amy's office, she intentionally did that because she feels that severance policy standalone is not the best way to go about it. Rather, she believes that we should build it into the exhibit B, which we hadn't done it to this point. So we have to go back and add this addendum to exhibit B for this year, and then we'll go back to the employees it's pertains to, so that
I'm not seeing that.
it looks like this here.
Yeah, I see what it looks like, but I'm not seeing it in
Here,
either
I'll
Ken's
pass mine on down.
or mine, or was it in our folder?
It should be the very last page in the book.
Yeah,
You can have mine.
thank you.
But again, it's to put that retirement severance piece into the appendix B as opposed to a standalone policy. And Becky explained the reasons for that much better than I did here. Kelsey was with that unit as well. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, so essentially she just said that the policy makes it look like it applies to all employees, but it's not necessarily for our part-time employees, it's for full-time, it's restricted to those that are getting the exhibit B. So in her mind, it just made it clearer and made more sense to have it as part of the exhibit B, so only the staff getting the exhibit B have that option of that benefit. Rather than having a policy where it seems like it's applicable to all staff. And then we just did this.
Say that again.
So if it's in our policy manual, it should probably be applicable to all staff. But not all staff can cash in the 45 days after they are done working there. For example, retiree hires, we don't allow to cash in for the 45 days. And then part-time employees currently do not cash in for those days. So putting it on the exhibit B makes it so that only the staff it applies to are getting it, versus if it was in our policies, it seems like it applies to all staff, which it's not meant to.
I brought the other severance policy to compare
Yeah, we had submitted it to her and asked her to.
the two, and it just, I don't know, so then if, like, employees may receive supplemental pay. There's no definition of which employees there, where we had that laid out in the severance policy. And I understand that it's on their exhibit, I understand that they're getting it. So this goes to all of our full-time employees and administrative staff.
Yeah, so administrative will get the administrative version because they can cash in a combination of sick or vacation days, which I believe is what the policy had specified. And then non-administrative staff they don't have vacation days. So they are just able to cash in.
I didn't see that distinction in the previous policy.
I don't think it was, the previous policy just said vacation or sick. I think it just included both, but not all staff has vacation days, so we just made the specification.
Gene has the old policy right there.
We approved this in 2018.
I thought we had updated it. When you, Ryan, and I worked on personal leave.
I found them on
I don't know if we updated that policy because we are updated with usually.
July.
I didn't look at it.
I remember-
I didn't have time to.
I remember when the board took action on that back a
Oh, we
couple
did.
years ago. I remember
July.
there was a lot of.
July of 2022 it was updated.
22.
I'm gonna look at what you sent to Becky and see.
If it's a recommendation by law, I understand, but then I'd like to have another policy. Cause I don't have that. I looked for a severance policy, this is the only one I had a copy.
But this one, so it's in our old board files in Drive, I don't, they've been told about, but.
If you prefer, I know with employees leaving for the summer, it might be harder to get signatures, but if you prefer to table this item and have further discussion for next month, we could do that.
I do have it pulled up and it does say. Employees may receive severance pay for a total of their accrued unused sick time and or vacation days up to 45 days. Is that what your version says too?
And or vacation days.
Yes.
We're good. Right.
Not connected to.
Share it with me real quick.
Looking for
Find
the printer.
Yeah.
It's in Drive, just search.
I just wanna make sure that this is covering everything that we're supposed to be covering for.
And when we spoke with her, we did request that, we said we wanted to, you know, meet the
Okay.
same specifications, but, yeah, I think if we wanna just take some time to review it, maybe they come back to it.
That's fine, it's fine, I don't mean to be picky.
No,
It's
no,
good,
not at all.
it's good to be thorough and make sure we're not missing.
Just,
Right,
I usually can find those things and that's the only one I could find. And I didn't have time today to look at it.
I'll print it off
Yeah, that'd be great.
after this.
That's fine, I would
Just
like
for
a copy of
now,
it, but we can go ahead.
I don't know if I included the attachment.
I want to check that.
Let me see.
I saw it too.
So we have the resolution to approve and adopt the addendum to Appendix B. I mean, it makes sense to me that employees that should receive that, though, that benefit, that it be on that Exhibit B, that's what we're supposed to have. I just wanted to make sure that it was right. So I don't have that. Is there a motion to approve items A through H? Moved by Dora, is there a second? Seconded by Jackie. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll have the roll, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee. Yes. Mr. Palmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes. Very good. And congratulations, Ryan, on completing that arrangement with Lorraine Community. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Happy as we're moving forward.
That is fun. I have no other need to move into executive session, so I'll entertain the motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Moved by Israel, is there a second? So this is one second by Dora, all in favor? Opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 8:25.